to India and Ireland, round Africa and back again. We don't really need to know just where we'll go. Maybe Canada, then to Brazil, then through the Alpine foothills. All I really want to know is, can we go? Oh baby, can we go? Round and around the globe.
Welcome to Take Me With You, episode 137. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Cheryl. We are two well-traveled people who want to go everywhere.
But that's not going to happen. Instead, for the last couple of years, we've been traveling vicariously by inviting guests to share their unique travel stories with us.
It's been awesome, and our podcast has been all over the globe.
Now we're taking some time to revisit the Wish You Were Here segment of our show, where we each share travel attractions that we recommend.
Today's Wish You Were Here's are from Scandinavia and Eastern Europe.
All right, we're going to round out the rest of our European Wish You Were Here's on this episode, Cheryl.
Yeah, we've had so many. It's just been so fun to hear about all these great places that people have been sharing about and recommending. And man, we got to start traveling again, Ryan.
I know, that's the problem. Yes, it's great to hear about them, but it's like, but I want to go there, and I haven't been there yet, and I need to see that thing, and I want to go there. Just makes it difficult.
Yes, but these are going to be really fun to hear about again. I think we've had so many episodes of our podcast that I have a really strong memory, especially for conversations. I don't remember every single one of these. And so it's been super fun to listen again and hear things recommended and kind of get excited for various locations. And especially, with these ones, these are not the top visited countries in Europe necessarily. And there are some really fun things recommended on today's episode that I'm excited to hear about.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's quite a few of these that I never heard of before. And I mean, hello, one thing is called Twizy. With a name like Twizy, it's got to be good, right?
And these are mainly from our guests. And so that's really fun, too. I love what our guests recommend.
Absolutely. Should we give it a listen?
Let's do it.
Sandy, what would you like to do for your Wish You Were Here?
When we were in Geiranger, Norway, we rented this car called a Twizy. And it's a two-person car. It has a windshield and a rear mirror. And it has doors, but the windows don't even have glass. It's open air. The person gets into the back seat first because when you put the seat back, there's no leg room for them. Their legs go on the sides of the front seat. It's kind of like my daughter calls it the Space Mountain car. And it's this tiny little electric car that we took up this mountain with all these switchbacks. And we started obviously at the bottom of the mountain where you could see the waterfalls and all. Norway is just a gorgeous, gorgeous country. And it was actually pretty warm for Norway. I would say it was in the 60s. And as we made our way up the mountain, there were different stops. You could look down and see we were on a Disney cruise. You could look down and see the ship in port. But we did not actually make it all the way to the tip top of the mountain because when we got about 3/4 of the way to the top, it was snowing. So with the no windows on the car, no heat, no air, we kind of went, wow, this is really cool. Okay, it's time to turn around. So that Twizy car is something that we always talk about. And I actually sent it with a Wish You Were Here picture when we were traveling. It was definitely a highlight for us.
Oh, that's so
I
fun.
Love that. Nice. That sounds so fun.
Yeah, I've never heard of a Twizy before. I'm going to have to check that out.
Twizzy.
Huh.
I'm checking out a website about it right now, and it looks gorgeous there. And
probably it's a green and white little car.
Yeah.
Yep,
looks like a little toy.
Yep. It looks like a little toy. Yes, it does. Again, because it's one person behind the other, like the width of it, you're like, that can't be a car.
But that sounds nicer for switchbacks.
It was great for the switchbacks. Once I got, like the first 3, I was able to actually not have the buses behind me honking because I kind of got up to speed. It really at first felt like I was in like the Fred Flintstone mobile. I wasn't sure that it would actually keep up. So.
Oh, that's fun. That totally looks like a Space Mountain car. That's really fun.
Alex, what would you like to do for your Wish You Were Here?
Well, Ryan, for my Wish You Were Here, I'm going to take you to a beautiful day in the dead of winter in Stockholm. Snow is falling. So snow is falling. It's about 25 degrees outside Fahrenheit. But there's some awesome Christmas markets in Stockholm. And my postcard would be from one particular, there's like a park called Skansen, which I think during the year is I think it's a zoo. And it's kind of still a zoo in the winter, but they've converted much of it into a Christmas market. And so you can go and get all of the meats and the cheeses and the herring. And what we did is we got mulled wine, which I think they call glögg in Sweden. And so you get a nice cup of glögg. And they had a St. Lucia concert in one of the churches, which is kind of their Christmas traditional story of man, it was all in Swedish, so I didn't understand all of it. But the gist is there is a patron saint, Saint Lucia, who is part of their Christmas tradition, and they have a lot of. I unfortunately I don't know the whole story, but
Santa Lucia, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. They wear
you might wear the wreath with the candle.
They wear the wreath on the head. The whole thing. And so my Wish You Were Here was sitting in the church at the Christmas market, drinking glögg and watching the St. Lucia performance with a live choir.
Nice.
In a beautiful, snowy, freezing day at Christmas time in Stockholm.
So, Kaylee, what would you like to share for your Wish You Were Here?
I would like to share the Amos Rex Museum in Finland.
Amos Rex?
Yes.
Is that like Tyrannosaurus Rex?
Yeah.
His cousin?
I actually don't know why it's called that. It's a good question. Maybe. It's a new contemporary art museum in Finland, but it has this one room that's really cool because the floor, ceiling, all the walls are black, and they turn all the lights off, and then they have this light show going on all of the surfaces, and it's like you feel like you're flying because you can't sense where the floor is and where the wall is, where the ceiling is. It's just you're completely enveloped by it. It was the coolest thing. So yeah, wish you were there.
Awesome.
And that's in Helsinki?
That's cool.
Yes, in Helsinki.
Nice. Very cool.
That does sound cool. Helsinki. Okay, I guess so. Add it to the list. If listeners want to, contribute to all the places we want to go fund.
Yep, we can
we'll see how that works out.
Yeah. Us and all the listeners going on a trip.
So, Elise, what do you have for your Wish You Were Here?
So, a couple years ago, I interned in the Czech Republic. But I had a week off in the middle of the summer, and I went up to Copenhagen to stay with my friend Bettina from college. And inside of Copenhagen, there's this little neighborhood. It's part of Christianshavn, but it's called Freetown Christiania. So Freetown Christiania inside of Copenhagen. And it's this artist community. And it kind of feels like you're walking into Neverland. You go through this small gate door, and then you're in this huge formerly industrial neighborhood that's just all the buildings are covered in these beautiful paintings. If you Google Freetown Christiania,
I'm doing it
you'll
right
get
now.
a lot
this
of
looks ridiculous.
Yeah, and a little weird side tidbit that you don't have to put in if you want, but that when we were there, it was still, so marijuana is illegal there, but they have like this open market that's like looks like a farmer's market, but everyone's just selling marijuana, and they have scary face masks on, but it's in the middle of all these colorful buildings. So that's like a side note. But we went there for lunch and to go see if we could find Rihanna, because she was performing that night and we didn't have tickets. We knew that she'd probably be in Freetown Christiania. But it's like right along the river, and you can walk down these trails and stuff, and there's just these like crazy looking houses on the river that people like hand built in like the 70s, and it's one of the most interesting places I've ever been. So if I could take anyone anywhere, it is Freetown Christiania.
Wow.
Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. But not the weed market. Sorry.
All right, Ryan, so what is your wish you were here?
Yeah, so my wish you were here is... It's really two. But
so
I'm going to...
you're cheating.
I'm cheating.
Okay.
Because I did it during the same excursion.
Okay.
So this is in Croatia.
All right.
And Croatia has hundreds of islands. So we were in Split, and so we did this like boat cruise out in between a bunch of the islands. And I think these two things that I'm about to mention, I believe were around the island called Hvar, which is spelled Hvar, and I'm probably spelling it wrong, or pronouncing it wrong, but Hvar, and there it's the Blue Cave and the Green Cave. Creatively named, I know.
Cool.
But they're very cool. So the Blue Cave is a cave that is blue. No surprise there.
Is it
but
blue like the blue-footed booby?
Yeah, actually a very similar shade of blue. Kind of this like kind of aqua blue,
the
blue-greenish.
Cave is blue?
Yeah, so here's the deal. So somehow through erosion, the cave has been worn out on the inside, and like the bottom underneath the water has been eroded out. So like if you were to swim down, you could come up and pop up inside this cave, right? Or there's like a little entrance from the side, but it like goes in. So the only light that enters this water cave, right, is actually the light that shines in underneath the edge of the cave that has been eroded underneath. So it's filtered through the water. And so it lights the cave from below. This is not making sense to you, is it?
That's so interesting. It's hard to picture, but like, it's
yeah.
been lit from below?
So like if you're in the cave and you're looking out towards where the rest of the ocean, or I guess the sea is,
yeah,
right? You would see the wall of the cave like coming down. It would go underneath the water for, I don't know, several feet, and then it would just stop and it would be open below that.
Wow.
And because it's open, light from the sun can filter through that water and then spread out into the cave inside. And so it creates this blue glow inside the cave.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. I mean, the cave is not super big, but it's gorgeous. Just this blue, clear, like that tropical blue that you think of like with tropical water.
Yeah.
It's like that shade of blue, but that is the only light that's actually entering the cave. So that light lights up the cave.
Wow. That sounds so cool. And then
It's
there's a
very
green
cool.
one?
So then there's the green one, which is
green?
separate. It's in a different location,
Okay.
right? So you take the boat over, and this one's a little bit different. So it's opening again. It's a cave, and there's water underneath it, but it's open out to the rest of the sea. So it's kind of like this archway, kind of like entrance, and you can go in. But then because it's like arched, there's stuff above it, right?
Okay.
So like there's ground up above, so you could potentially like go up and like walk up on basically the surface of the cave, if you will.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then there's a hole in the roof of the cave,
Okay.
right? In the top part of the cave. And the sunlight shines through this hole down into the water that's in the cave.
Wow.
And then there's this circle in the cave
that's lit green.
Wow. So it's like a green spotlight then.
Yeah.
That's
and like
so
you can
cool.
actually like see, it's really cool because you can see the beam of light as it comes through this hole. And then as it hits the surface of the water, you can even more clearly see the light rays as they travel through the water because it's so much darker around it because it's like deeper into the back of the cave. It's not like dark, but it's a lot darker. And then this is like intense sunlight just shining through it. And so it ends up being this, it's not like green, but it's kind of like a bluish green color. And it's really cool. And it's kind of this eerie because the water, of course, is like moving. And so it's this kind of eerie bluish green spot in the middle of this cave.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very cool. So the
fun.
blue and green caves in Croatia off the coast of Split near Hvar Island.
So that's going to be the Mediterranean then?
Yes.
Okay.
Technically, I believe it's the Aegean Sea. Aegean Sea? Is that the right one? There's two that start with A. Aegean and something else. Because it's between, so Croatia is on the east, and then Italy is on the west.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That gives some context for that location too. Then that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, Diana, what would you like to share for your wish you were here?
One of the favorite things that I've ever done is when I was in Greece a year and a half ago, we saw the grave of, I believe it was King Agamemnon, Alexander the Great's, like, grandfather or something. It's I don't remember all the history, and I really apologize because I wish that I could really explain it in its fullness. But it was, so they did beehive graves, like during sort of more ancient burial, because people would plunder them if they weren't really well hidden and disguised, and also just underground. But it was something that was only discovered in the 1970s. And
really?
Yeah, and so it was
Wow.
this really, really exciting thing because it was this grave that was discovered, and it's just like two hills. Like it doesn't look like anything extraordinary. But then this person excavated it and found the graves of these royals, which was this huge deal, and they were so well preserved because they had never been touched. And it was just really cool to see all these ancient artifacts. And I think one of my favorite things from Greece overall was seeing that, and also just realizing just the artistry that people had. And I think sometimes there's a lot of like cultural, there's a word for it and I don't remember, but like forward thinking pride, and like we're so advanced and we have all this technology, but then you look back and you see how they made these structures, and mathematically they're perfect and they're still standing, and they're these things that they carved and made out of gold, and just this place had so many of those relics, and I really, really enjoyed that. And I wish I could be more specific about what it was in the history, but yeah, that was one of my take me with you moments.
So, Summer, what would you like to do for your wish you were here?
Okay, so that was when I wasn't prepared. I'm like going through like the pendulum of things that I've done. Okay, so I'm gonna go with so I feel like there are very few places that when you get there they look like on Instagram, because now with Instagram there's so many filters that you can put on everything that like kind of make things so that by the time you get there you're like, it doesn't kind of look like I thought it would look. And when this October I was able to go to Greece, and was able to go to, of course, the iconic Greece island that everyone wants to go to, which is Santorini. And I went to Ia, the town of Ia, which is those whitewashed cliffside homes and things like that. And I remember, we did a cruise where we were cruising up to Santorini, and we were far enough away that I was like, is that snow? Is there snow on the, like, it didn't make sense, but it looked like snow on top of because Santorini is kind of high. It's not like a low island. It's a tall island. And I was like, I think there's snow on the top of that. And as we got closer, it really it was the white buildings that were lined up along the just along the bluffs there. And as I was in Fira, which is one of the towns, and Ia, and as I was looking out onto this picture blue water that was still as can be, and over these absolutely white buildings, it was that picture moment that you just like, I was like wanting my mind to take a picture of that spot and be like, singe this into your memory forever, because this is stunning. I mean, it is if you'd taken away the 10,000 people that were there and just been like, there is a reason that people are coming to this place, and it is absolutely stunning. So that was a place that I wish I could bring everyone I knew to, that spot that we were standing at, that I was like, this is iconic. It's beautiful. It's as beautiful as it seems.
Nice. That's a good wish you were here. I wish I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Hillary, what would you like to do for your wish you were here?
So I was thinking I would give you something else in the region. So I really like Kiev in Ukraine, and it's really easy to get to from Moldova. So I did go there after I finished in Moldova. Now, the thing I'm going to tell you about, actually, I didn't go there this time. I did that about a decade ago when I first went to Kiev, but it's called the Museum of One Street. Actually, I think that was what it was called then, and I just looked it up, and now it's called the One Street Museum, which is kind of a confusing title, but it is a museum of what happened in people's lives on this one particular street in Kiev, like during a certain period of history. So they have, like, you go in this museum and they have different rooms that are set up to look like houses, like you're in a house, but then it has like memorabilia and artifacts from people who lived on that street. And it was just really well done and kind of cool. And I've been in way too many museums, and it was kind of just different, and I really appreciated it. It's also in an area of Kiev that is really cute. There's like this cute little street and a beautiful church, this teal colored church that is gorgeous. And I tried to go in there this time, and it was under construction, so I couldn't, which was a bummer. But that whole area is great. It has like little souvenir shops on the street, and some other really great museums. There's also like a Chernobyl museum nearby that's excellent and worth seeing, and really sad. Anyway, so that whole area of Kiev is great, but this one particular museum, the One Street Museum, I really liked just because it was a little different and kind of interesting and unique, and highly recommend it.
That sounds really interesting.
That's cool.
It reminds me of an attraction at either Disneyland or Disney World that I went to as a kid, and it was in a theater that rotated, and you watched an animatronic man talk about, like, it was like different stages of his life, and he would talk about like the new technology he was experiencing and what was happening in history. And so you watch like snapshots of this character's life and like what was going on, and the idea of like a theme like that around a museum in history sounds really interesting, as opposed to just history.
Yeah, the way that they organized it was just neat, because you kind of walk through this house and just see like what kind of things people were using and what kind of things people were wearing at this point, you know?
I can't believe I just compared that to a Disneyland attraction.
Well, Disney does an excellent job.
I can.
Ryan, what's your wish you were here?
So my wish you were here is going to be in Moscow, Russia. Wow. And it is the KGB Museum.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it was a number of years ago that I was there. And I was doing some internet searching. I think it's still there, but it looks like maybe it's only open certain months out of the year. But it's incredibly interesting, because when did I go? I went in 2003, maybe? So quite a while ago at this point. But it was a really interesting tour, because they go through and they've got all of these things from basically the Cold War all this spy paraphernalia and little, the things that you see in the movies that actually were used, apparently. And all these different things about how, this device had this little microfilm hidden in it and this little camera that was in this other thing that this guy wore and all these different things. And it was really, really interesting. It was also really interesting to me how, because the tour guide, of course, knew that we were from the United States. And so he made sure to point out all of the times where the KGB officers outsmarted the CIA. And so it was really, which, was kind of funny, whatever, ha ha ha. But I also really found it interesting to hear the perspective of the Cold War.
Right.
From the Russian perspective, not from our perspective. Because obviously we've got one side of the story. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So it's interesting to be able to see all the different devices and things and hear the stories, but it's also really interesting as a cultural experience to hear things that, kind of grew up with and movies and things, but from a different perspective, and to be able to have a little bit. And I mean, obviously it was, one tour for, I don't know, an hour or two. So it wasn't, the most amazing. And I now have this full understanding of the Russian perspective or anything like that. But it was very, very interesting to hear from a different perspective. So if you're in Moscow and you're looking for something cool to do for a little bit, the KGB tour is pretty interesting.
Are you telling me that you have been trained to be a spy for the KGB?
Well, I can't tell you that, Trent. That's definitely not what I'm saying.
Well, you could tell me, but you just have to kill me afterwards, right? Is that how that works?
I mean, I wouldn't know because I'm not a KGB officer.
And if he told you, then that part would not make it to air, so our guests will never know. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, it was. We would love it if you would follow us on social media. We are at Timwy Podcast. That's at TMWY for Take Me With You Podcast. We are on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter.
You can also email us at timwypodcast@gmail.com. Tell us, what are your wish you were here's for this location?
We would love to hear that. You can also call us and leave us a voicemail at 406-763-8699. Or if it's easier to remember, 406-POD-TIMWY. We would love it if you would rate and review our podcast to tell other people what you think about it, subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode, and share about this episode on your social media.
As always, thank you to Beth Reed Miller for the awesome artwork. You can check out more of Beth's artwork at Beth Is Something. And thank you to Erica Corbin for the use of her song Round the Globe. You can listen to Erica's music wherever music is sold or streamed.
That's all we have for this episode. So until next time, remember to take me with you.
Take me with you.
Can we get a sailboat chasing down the sunset as we float round and round the globe? Salty air and balmy nights, guided only by the lights above, and light little love. Oh, the world is out there waiting to explore, and all our troubles here want them to be